I am going to recap a 1993 thriller drama movie. Name the Crush. So, let's begin. The movie is initially shown to a 28-year-old writer, whose name is Nick. Nick was swift in Washington because of his work. Now he had to rent a house here, and that's why Nick goes to Mr. and Mrs. Forrester's guest house to see. Mrs. Foster shows her the guest house. Nick also likes that guest house very much, and he decides to stay here. Then we are shown Adrian, the daughter of Mrs. Foster, who is just 14 years old. Then Nick becomes swift in that house. Then Adrian with her friend is watching him hiding from under the house. This lets us know that Adrian is attracted to Nick. And then Adrian sends her friend Shine to talk to Nick. Shine meets Nick, and then after meeting Nick comes to Adrian and tells her that Nick is very handsome. Next day when Nick goes to work, then his boss gives him the job of writing an article on a criminal named Robert. A writer named Amy also supports Nick in this work, and Amy is Nick's only girlfriend. After this, while Nick is cleaning his car, then there comes Adrian. After that, the two have a conversation. While talking, Adrian and Nick develop a good friendship. The same night when Nick was working on an article with Robert, so there comes Adrian. Then Adrian starts flirting with Nick. Nick tells him about his article. Robert was a very famous criminal, so Adrian knew about him too. After that, both of them talk to each other, and after that, Adrian goes to her house. Then the next day when Nick is taking a bath, so Adrian comes to his house. There, Adrian sees a childhood photo of Nick, and then she asks Nick that she can keep this photo, but Nick refuses her, because he had only one copy of this photo. After this, Adrian invites Nick to the party happening in her house, and she leaves from there. After this, Nick goes to the office with his article, and he has to read the article once before showing it to his boss. So he notices many changes have been made in that article, which he had not done. And when he shows that article to his boss, so his boss is very happy, and he appreciates this article very much. Then at night, Nick goes to the party at Adrian's house. Adrian is playing the piano at this party. Then after some time, Adrian meets Nick, and then she tells him that he himself had made changes in the article. Hearing this, Nick gets a little angry, but Adrian says that I just wanted to help you. And then Adrian takes Nick to a lighthouse. Adrian loved this place. There is a lot going on between the two here, but in a matter of words, Adrian starts kissing Nick. At first Nick does not tell her anything, but as soon as she realizes that it is wrong, then he stops Adrian and leaves his house. The next day when Amy and Nick are together, then Adrian comes over there and then introduce Adrian to Amy. And then Adrian feels very jealous, seeing Nick and Amy together. Once when Nick is partying with his office colleagues, then Adrian meets Amy at that party, when Amy is talking to Adrian. So after listening to Adrian, Amy understands that Adrian likes Nick very much. Amy tells all these things to Nick, but Nick does not react much after hearing all these things, and he feels that's all Adrian's stupidity. Then he notices while Nick is working that his childhood photo is not there. Searches for it all over the house, but can't find the photo. Then Nick suspects Adrian. Maybe Adrian hasn't taken the photo, because he once talked to Nick about this photo. Thinking this, Nick goes to Adrian's house. Adrian is alone at home at that time. Nick goes to her bedroom looking for her. Even after searching there, he could not find his photo. Then Adrian comes out of the bathroom. Hearing the sound, Nick hides in the closet of his room. Coming to the room, Adrian gets realized that Nick is hiding inside the closet, and so Adrian turns to the closet and deliberately starts changing her clothes. But after a while, Adrian is not in her room. Then Nick sees the opportunity and runs away from his room. But as soon as the gate of the house opens, Adrian's father is outside the house. After this, Adrian's father asks Nick, "What are you doing here?" So Nick makes up an excuse and says that I had taken a book from the admin, and I had come to return the same. After this, Adrian's father takes Nick upstairs and shows him Adrian's childhood swing, which he is restoring now. That's when Adrian comes there. During this time, Adrian's dad asks Adrian, "Which book did you take?" Adrian understands that Nick has lied to avoid her father, and that's why she supports Nick, and takes the name of a random book. Seeing all this, Nick understands that Adrian really loves her very much, and Adrian is alone for this. Then Nick wants to talk to her about it. She tells Adrian that both of us can never come in a relationship, because you're 14 and I'm 28, and so we can never be together. Adrian listens to all these things, and reacts quite casually, and she looks at Nick with more seduced eyes. And Adrian says that you kissed me that day, day in the lighthouse. And today when I was changing clothes. Even then you were watching me silently. Why did you do all this? Because if you don't love me at all. Nick has no answer to this question. And so he remains silent, and goes from there. Next day he brings Amy to show his car, because he had renovated his car. As soon as he removes the grave from his car, he sees that someone has written abusive words in the front of the car. Now Nick gets very angry seeing this, and he suspects Adrian, that this work was probably done by Adrian. And to talk about this, he goes to his house to complain to his father. When his father asks him about this, so she flatly refuses them. Nick has no proof to show that Adrian did this, so he is unable to do anything, and then he starts covering up the abuse written on his car. That's when Adrian's friend Shine comes there. Shine needed to talk to Nick about Adrian for something important, so she invites Nick to meet her at a secret location. When both are talking, then Adrian sees these two talking from above. When Adrian and Shine both go to horse riding class, Adrian then seduces Shine's horse, because of which when Shine horse is riding, then she falls, because of which his hand breaks. Nick, on the other hand, is waiting for Shine at the location where Shine called her. Despite waiting for a long time, Shine does not come there. Then Nick starts leaving from there. As he turns around, sees Adrian over there. Adrian tells Nick about Shine. He has had an accident. Then a few days later, in the office, the interview of Nick Roberts is held, but he learns that someone has deleted that interview. Then Nick comes to her home and checks on the computer, and searches the backup file of that interview, but someone had just formatted the computer. Nick understands that Adrian has tampered with his computer, so he gets angry, and decides to leave this house. Then Nick discovers a secret room in his house. After going inside he sees it. There are many candles there, and in the middle of those candles is Nick's photo. And seeing all this, Nick seals that room completely, and changes the lock of his house, so that Adrian could not come to his house again. After that, he works hard again and prepares for the interview. Meanwhile, Adrian calls and messages her a lot but ignores everyone, due to which Adrian gets very angry, and she becomes much more desperate. After preparing the interview, he searches for a new home, and he comes home and starts packing the things. Then Amy also comes there, and then the two get intimate that night. At night when Amy and Nick are sleeping together on the bed, then Adrian is standing there looking at him. Seeing all this, he gets very angry. The next morning Amy sees Adrian near his car, and then tries to explain to her, and then she does it, that you don't love Nick, you are just attracted to him, and when you grow up you will find someone or the other. Saying this, Amy leaves from there. Adrian also follows her. Then Amy goes to the red room and starts developing the photos. Then Adrian locks that room, leaves a lot of bees inside the room. Amy's condition would have worsened after a bee bite. Then she leaves the window like that, and there she faints. Then Nick also comes to know about it. Meanwhile, Adrian also comes to his room, and invites him to see his horse riding competition. And during the horse riding competition, Nick does not come there because he is doing an event with colleagues in his office. Adrian gets very angry for not getting Nick out, and then goes to Nick. Going there, Adrian gives Nick a slap, and then everyone starts looking at Nick. Then Nick takes Adrian to the side. Then he gives her a warning. After that he asks her to go home. After the event is over, Nick goes to talk to the owner of his new house. But now he does not want to give his house to Nick because Adrian has told them that Nick is a gangster. After this Nick comes home, so he sees a lot of police officers over there, and then the cops catch Nick. And there are also Adrian's mom and his dad. Adrian is crying. Seeing Nick, Adrian's dad proceeds to kill him. Actually all this was happening because of Adrian had filed a case of sexual abuse on Nick. Then the cops take Nick to the police station. Nick tries to convince them that he did not do all this, but the policemen tell him that your ejaculate has been found on Adrian's body. Actually, on the night Amy and Nick got intimate, Adrian came there on that night, and he got Nick's ejaculate on protection thrown in the dustbin. Knowing this, Nick understands that he is badly trapped, but Nick's bail is made by his boss. Because his boss believed in Nick that he cannot do so, he starts packing his things to leave the house. That's when the Shine comes there. She tells Nick, I think Adrian's mental state is not good. Once Adrian was in love with a boy very much, and that boy rejected Adrian's proposal. A few days later, the boy was killed due to eating poison, and I doubt that Adrian did it. And Shine tells Nick that Adrian has a diary, in which she writes everything. If you get the diary, you can prove yourself innocent. But now Nick did not want to spoil his mind in all these things, and he asks Shine to go home. After this Shine does not go home, but instead she goes to Adrian's house. After some time Nick Shine's scream is heard, and then Nick hurriedly goes to Adrian's house. Adrian sees Nick at home, and she calls it I love you, and expresses her love. Nick ignores his words, and Shine seems to be discovered. Then Adrian gets very angry, and she attacks Nick from behind. Nick falls down the stairs, and then Adrian's dad comes over there. Seeing them there, Adrian and Nick go to a room, where Adrian's dad was restoring Adrian's childhood swing. Shine is also there, and then Adrian again attacks Nick, and then a fight starts between the two. Adrian's father comes up and sees the two fighting. Then he beats Nick. Adrian gets very angry seeing Nick being beaten up, and then she attacks her own dad, and beats them and makes them unconscious. And then Nick hits Adrian with a punch, due to which she faints. After this Nick leaves Shine. Now in the last scene, we are shown Adrian in a mental hospital, where she is writing a sorry letter to Nick. Here Nick is with his girlfriend Amy, and he keeps getting many letters, but Adrian sends all the letters. In the last scene we are shown Adrian, who is now looking carefully at the photo of her doctor, because she has now fallen in love with her doctor. And this is where the movie ends.